Oh, howdy all, grab yourself a drink, it's time for some Path of Exile discussion. This is episode 1 in a new series, How Is It Crafted? In this series, I'm going to take rare items that people submit to me and break down how they've been crafted. We're going to start with Gale Hold, a set of Arcanist gloves that were posted to the Path of Exile builds subreddit the other day. And this is quite interesting because whilst I posted a write-up on how I would go about crafting it, there are a couple of refinements that people made, and I'm going to include those in this video. This is a triple Incursion mod, single veiled mod set of gloves that has Benchcraft life. As far as budget goes, I'm pretty confident you can make this under 25 exalts, potentially quite a bit under. I'm going to say 25 just in case you get unlucky on a particular step along the way. Additionally, there are lower budget alternatives possible that forego the +2 to the level of socketed AOE gems and 8% increased area of effect mod, and those will be much cheaper. So what makes up these gloves? There is a suffix: Incursion, Hybrid Cold Resist, and Damage to Chilled Monsters. The only sources of this and the other Incursion mods are drops. These can come from 3 different sources. Elva's Incursion Temple is the original source. They can also come from Elva's Incursions in conjunction with the Atlas passive tree, or they can come from armor rewards on various other League content. Secondly, there is another Incursion suffix. This is Hybrid Lightning Resist and Critical Chance versus Shocked Enemies. Thirdly, there is a Hybrid Fire Resist and Damage to Burning Enemies mod. Again, these are in that same category of Incursion mods. You'll know that these cannot be rolled onto an item. These have to be on the item at the start, otherwise they can't be added by any means. Next, there is a prefix that is Veiled AOE. This is +2 to the level of AOE gems and 8% AOE as a hybrid mod. There are a couple of sources of this: Ashling Unveil, Veiled Chaos Orb, or it can drop that way. Now we're going to look for the ways that can add this to an item that's already been started, so it's going to be Ashling Unveil and Veiled Chaos Orb. Next, there is a prefix, Bench Life. Next, there is an implicit mod, 31% attack crit. This could actually be improved with a Blessed Orb. It's 31 to 33%, and that is the Grand Tier Exarch mod. Then there is another implicit 3% increased damage per 100 strength, and that's a Lesser Eater of Worlds mod. Now ask yourself a question: which of these are the hardest to get? Let's go and get those first. A quick important reminder with Incursion mods: the Lightning Incursion suffix can be changed to the Fire version by a Harvest craft that says change a modifier that grants a Lightning Resist into a similar tier Fire Resist mod. This always works. There's no RNG involved. It's 100% chance. The same applies for other combinations as well. So do keep this in mind. It means that we're going to be using a lot of Incursion mod items here. So our first step is going to be to get 2 Incursion mods on the same item. Now, there are no ways to add these later, so we're going to get them first, and the only way that we can get these together is through Recombinators. Recombinators break a lot of the checks and balances that GGG put into crafting, and in particular for mods where GGG never intended you to get multiples of them on one item, Recombinators let you bypass that in a lot of cases. So we're going to start with 1 suffix Incursion gloves. So here's a couple of examples that I've got on the screen here. We've got this crafting project, Stealth Gloves, a mock-up that I did over on Path of Exile, and it's just got 3 terrible prefixes, and it's got 48% fire resist, 46 to 75 added fire damage against burning enemies. And then a second set, which is the cold version of this. Again, it's 3 bad prefixes. Now, the actual number of prefixes doesn't matter, but items that are rare always drop with at least 4 affixes. So if you've got one that's got 3 on it, that means that it has had an Orb of Annulment applied to it. If you do get a 2 suffix set of Incursion gloves, you can go for a risky annul, but generally speaking, it's going to be better to pay extra and buy ones that have only 1 suffix on them. That will cost you more, but they will probably end up being better value than buying twice as many sets of 2 suffix ones and also using an annulment orb on them. You want to benchcraft the same non-resistance mod on each of them. I suggest benchcrafting dexterity on both gloves and just use bottom tier dexterity. This is something that's been worked out to improve your chances with Recombinators. This is definitely proven. It's not always appropriate, and it won't be appropriate at the next step that uses Recombinators, but at this step it definitely helps you out. Now you'll have approximately a 44% chance to win this craft, approximately a 5% chance to wind up with a base that can't be reused at all, and about a 51% chance to lose one of your Incursion inputs. Next, we've got 2 mods on one item, and in fact we can do that a few times. We're going to do the same process, but we're going to start with 2 items that each have 2 Incursion mods. However, this time we do not bench craft an additional mod like Dexterity. This will actually decrease your chances because you'll often end up in a situation where there's 4 valid mods: Cold Resist, Lightning Resist, Fire Resist, all the Incursion mods, and Dexterity. The game will say, hey, congratulations, you won the roll, you're going to get 3 of them, and the first one it picks is Dexterity, and then you end up only getting 2. So don't put Dexterity on, it will hamper your chances here. Your chances to win here are 35%, 50% to get a 2 Incursion mod item back, so you basically lose half your inputs. 15% to be in a worse spot than that. Now we have a fork in the road. Nothing we've done so far has been too expensive, and that's about to change. It's time to polish those Exalted Orbs. It's time for a 2 Exalt step that is a 70% chance to fail each time you try it. But if that's too much for your budget, all you need to sacrifice is one mod, the Veiled AOE Gems and AOE Hybrid mod. So we'll go through the higher budget option first, then we'll come back to the cheaper option later, and then we'll return to look at which implicits we're going to get on these gloves. So a quick reminder with Veiled mods. Before you unveil a mod on an item, benchcraft a mod that shares a mod group with an undesired Veiled mod. This will ban unwanted mods. So for example, if you don't want to see a life-related role, then you can benchcraft low-tier life on the item before you unveil it, and then when you do that, you will tremendously increase your chances of getting a desired mod. So for glove prefixes, you should always block physical to elemental conversion. If you have the bench-crafted physical to lightning conversion that you see on the right-hand side crafting project gloves there, then that will ban the Veiled prefix from being any of the 3 conversion mods. So you can't get lightning conversion, you can't get cold conversion, you can't get fire conversion. This will tremendously increase your chances of getting the AOE mod and is definitely worth the cost of this craft. What you're going to do at this point is simple. Suffixes cannot be changed, which is a bench craft that costs 2 exalts each time you apply it. And then you're going to either use a Veiled Chaos Orb or an Ashling Unveil. Now, both of these options can work. Whenever you fail this, you're going to need to re-metamod the item. So you're going to then need to reapply suffixes can't be changed. If you ever forget to apply suffixes can't be changed, that's going to hurt you a lot because then you're going to end up being able to lose your 3 incursion mods. If you apply a Veiled Chaos Orb without suffixes can't be changed, you're guaranteed to lose all 3 of them. If you apply an Ashling Unveil without that metamod in place, then you've got a good chance of losing 1 of the 3 of them. Now there is an outlier case that can come up here, and this is the 6 mod case. One time in 12, a Veiled Chaos Orb will roll 6 mods on an item. This is bad, it prevents you from recrafting suffixes can't be changed. If we aren't happy with the item at this point, we can use Harvest Reforge an item, keeping all suffixes. There is actually another option we'll get to in a sec as well, and that is going to involve making the item Searing Exarch dominant, and then applying an Eldritch Orb of Annulment. Now this has an 11 in 12 chance to fix the problem. If it doesn't solve it, then it's time for another one of the same Harvest craft. Now the budget alternative. We know this item is going to be an Eldritch item eventually. And that means that we can actually make the item Exarch dominant now, and then we can apply Eldritch Chaos Orbs until the item is somewhat good. This approach can never give you a Veiled mod, but it can end up with a pretty solid item. Now this version that you see on the screen here was done with a mock-up with 6 attempts. So this cost me 6 Eldritch Chaos Orbs, which is approximately 2.5 Exalted Orbs, on top of the cost of getting 3 Incursion mods together. But I think this would be a pretty solid set to use. So that's definitely something that you can use as a budget alternative that avoids you having to spend 2 Exalted Orbs on an RNG step. Next, we have the final layer of the cake, and that is getting your implicits in place. Now for low tier mods like what is seen on the original item, this is really easy. 3.18 made Grand Embers and Icors really cheap. They're not free, but an Exalt usually buys 50 or so. So you can use these frivolously until you get the perfect implicit for your build. For exceptional tier, which is not needed to mimic the item that was originally posted here, it's best to roll a right mod at Grand tier first. Then you want to use an exceptional Ember or Icor of the opposite type. So if you're trying to get an exceptional version of a Searing Exarch mod, what you want to do is spam Grand Embers until you get the Grand version, so 1 tier below what you want. Then you're going to want to put an exceptional Icor on the item, and then you're going to want to use an Orb of Conflict. This isn't guaranteed to get you the result you want, so your average cost here is going to be 2 Orbs of Conflict and 1 exceptional Icor or Ember of the opposite type, and that's going to add about 120 Chaos. If you want to go for Exquisite tier, also known by a lot of players as Single Elevated, this is going to be the same approach, but it's typically going to cost you about 6 Orbs of Conflict. If you want Perfect tier, which is the highest tier possible, this is going to cost you many more. Perhaps about 16. The odds aren't known on this, and I actually tried to research this last league, but I could not buy enough conflicts in order to make this work well. That is how this item was crafted. If you've got any comments or questions, definitely fire away below. Now I want to take more suggestions for items for this, and for that purpose, I'm going to invite you to my Discord. You don't need to do it that way. You can just tell me all the mods that you want to get on an item, but if you want to just put a screenshot in, that'll be easier. And I'll put a link down in the description of this video below to my Discord. That invite will be valid until this video is about 7 days old. If you do join the Discord from that link, you'll initially have no permissions. This is just to deal with bots. I will then manually approve you, which sometimes takes a little while, but usually it'll be done within 12 hours or so. That's all I've got. May your Val Orbs have interesting results, and I will see you around.